They never expected this to happen. The left still can't understand why Kamala Harris failed so badly. Instead of facing the truth, they keep making excuses that sound more and more unrealistic. During a recent panel on BillMaher's show, even Bill, who's known for being liberal, couldn't ignore the obvious. He broke down their arguments right there on live TV, making everyone confront the uncomfortable truth. But the real surprise came when actor Michael Douglas jumped in, supported Bill, and spoke some hard truth that shocked the entire panel. Today we're breaking down that powerful moment and showing how the left's refusal to face reality isn't just a mistake. It's causing their whole strategy to fall apart. Don't go anywhere because this is the wake-up call they never saw coming. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss one of our breakdowns.
Who might emerge as the strongest Democratic opposition leader in the next Trump era? Oh, well, that's a good question. I mean, like Adam Schiff, he won right big.
He won big. I like Westmore.
Westmore's fantastic. He's in Maryland.
Yep.
But who's going to be the one? Gavin Newsom, we have here in this state. He's already called the legislature to. Trump hasn't done anything yet, but I understand the.
This was the problem. There was a 2014 study that showed that Fortune 500 companies were more likely to pick a female CEO if the company was struggling, basically setting women up for the big job, but to also fail. If they did well, fine. But if they failed, look, we have a female CEO while failing. And that's what I feel like they did to Kamala Harris.
That is without a doubt the most ridiculous excuse I've heard so far. And believe me, I've sat through plenty of Joy Reid's takes, so that's really saying something. Trying to blame Kamala Harris's failure on her gender isn't just misleading. It's actually laughable. Let's be honest, Harris didn't fall flat because she's a woman. She failed because she came off as unlikable, uninspiring, and had no strong support, no message that connected with people, and zero authenticity to hold it all together. It's the same old excuse they used for Hillary Clinton back in 2016. And if anything, it sounds even weaker the second time around. But the excuses didn't stop there. Sarah had yet another one ready to defend Kamala, and that's when BillMaher and Michael Douglas finally stepped in, called her out, and delivered the kind of blunt truth that was both harsh and absolutely necessary.
It was a 3-month campaign, and she was supposed to introduce herself to the American people. No wonder people were Googling, did Joe Biden drop out? And so...
No. No. You're saying 3 months wasn't long enough?
It was too long. It was long enough.
It was long enough.
If they had a primary...
It's not that they didn't have time to introduce. They met someone they didn't like them.
If they had had a primary, they wouldn't have picked her. And if they had, she would have been able to rough out those edges that then she basically has to start from scratch with a campaign team she didn't hire that didn't like her, right? It was his team. And so I wonder if that next Democratic person, maybe someone's not even on our radar yet. Because frankly, when you look at the history of who's, there's two types. The one who waited in line, who was next in line, and then there's the one who comes out. That's Obama, that's Clinton, that's Reagan to some extent.
Listen, if even the Amish were aware of what was happening during the last election, then there's absolutely no excuse for mainstream commentators to claim people didn't know about Kamala. That's not just wrong. It's lazy and downright insulting to anyone who's been paying even a little attention. Think about it. This is a community that mostly avoids modern technology, doesn't watch TV, and isn't glued to social media like the rest of us. And yet, despite all that, they saw through the media noise, understood what was at stake, and showed up in record numbers to vote for Trump. When a group that usually stays out of political drama suddenly gets involved, something serious is going on. But instead of facing that truth, MSNBC analyst John Heilemann decided to back up Sarah's excuse-filled defense of Kamala and took things to a whole new level of absurdity. Almost like they're trying to prove just how out of touch they really are.
You're the sitting vice president, and you get put on elevated to the top of the ticket 107 days ahead of the election. I think that is a very high degree of difficulty put on anybody, and I do not think she is the perfect candidate. I tend to agree with Sarah that probably in a fully litigated primary, she probably would not have been the Democratic nominee, but we'll never know that. But I will tell you that there's never been anybody who's had the difficulty of that situation, elevated that late in the campaign. Why?
Democrat would have needed to run away from
Bill,
the
I don't know if you know this, but the Vice President of the United States is basically shoved in a broom closet for 3.5 years.
I know.
You couldn't.
She was more popular in there.
Yes, well.
I mean, this idea that in a mass The idea in a mass media age that 107 days is not long enough to know somebody.
You are way overestimating the American people in terms of what their ability. No. You have someone like Donald Trump has become a universally known, understood, loved by some, hated by others over the course of being omnipresent for 8 years.
Okay.
Barack Obama becomes president of the United States after running for 2 years as president, runs a 50-state primary, is on television, does dozens of Democratic debates, and by the time at the end of that, most people knew who he was.
We all saw this disaster coming way back during the 2020 primaries. Kamala Harris didn't even make it to Iowa, dropping out before a single vote was cast. And that alone should have been a huge warning sign. Her campaign didn't just lose steam, it completely flatlined due to a lack of support and resources. But fast forward and she was handed every possible advantage. Massive donor money, non-stop praise from the media, and strong backing from Hollywood elites. Even with all that, she still managed to blow through a staggering $1 billion and ended her campaign $20 million in debt. Let that sink in, because that's not just a failure, it's a political meltdown of epic proportions. And the most frustrating part is listening to John Heilemann talk down to the American people like voters just didn't understand her. That kind of arrogant, dismissive attitude says everything about how out of touch the media class really is. No wonder they're losing the public's trust. Instead of blaming the voters, maybe it's time they take a long, hard look in the mirror.
Small dollar donors are arguably the worst thing that's happened to our politics, as it turned out.
It's a small dollar donor didn't make $20 billion. No.
A lot of it.
Some of it, yeah.
A lot of it. And they represent about 2% of our country.
There's a few special PACs in there that saw $100 million plus.
Those are bad, too.
I think you can believe that you could have shorter elections in America, but it's not like we don't know. In Britain, for instance, when you have a short election, it's not like you don't know who the leader of the party is for months and years before that.
But you're either the person who's Googling the day before, did Biden drop out, or you know in a week. You know, did anyone in this audience not know enough about Kamala Harris pretty much after a week to make a decision? Yeah, you just people.
How
It's ridiculous. We just get sicker of them.
There are two major problems that need to be called out here. First, how in the world are small donors suddenly being treated like a bad thing? That's one of the purest forms of democracy. Regular people choosing to support a candidate they truly believe in with their own money. That's the heart of grassroots politics, the kind of civic involvement we should be encouraging, not mocking. If someone thinks small donations are a problem, it probably says more about their elitist attitude than anything else. Second, while the idea of shorter election seasons might sound nice in theory, who exactly gets to decide when campaigns can start? Trying to control that crosses into dangerous territory and clearly violates the First Amendment. Free speech doesn't come with a time limit. And besides, just because a candidate starts early doesn't mean they'll win. History is full of early frontrunners who flamed out before Super Tuesday. But instead of admitting any of that, the two of them just kept making excuse after excuse, until Bill Maher, clearly done with all the nonsense, finally stepped in and dropped the reality check they badly needed.
You have to make all these excuses for her. This, like I said, all this was this week was people who said, "Oh, she ran a flawless campaign. How ridiculous!" Or it's racism. This is an old playbook.
Yes, I didn't say any of those things.
I know, but I've heard a lot of these things. And I think America's perfectly willing to elect a woman. They just didn't like the last two that were put up.
Exactly, gender or sex has nothing to do with it. What really matters to voters are a candidate's policies, their track record, and whether they can clearly and convincingly lay out a vision for the country. When all of those things are lacking, voters will walk away every single time, no matter who the candidate is. It's really that simple. Trying to guilt or pressure people into voting based on identity alone isn't just lazy politics. It's outright manipulation. The last election made it obvious that Americans are looking for real leadership, not empty symbolism. And if you need more proof of how disconnected Kamala Harris is from that reality, just watch her recent clip from Pacific Palisades, California. It speaks louder than any press release ever could.
What goes through your mind when you see this? You're here, you're now seeing it up close.
It's not only seeing it, Alex, you can smell it. You can feel it, right? So it's seeing it with our eyes, and many people have seen it. You all are covering it. But to literally be on the ground here, you can smell the smoke that was here. You can feel the toxicity, frankly, of the environment.
Yikes, there's really no better word for it. We seriously dodged a bullet with her, and now all eyes are on California, hoping voters can see past the same old smoke and mirrors and not hand her the governorship she's clearly aiming for. This is a crucial moment, and what happens next will show whether we've actually learned anything or if we're about to make the same mistakes all over again. But now I want to hear what you think. Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's get the conversation going.